If you're watching this video, chances are you're one of the entry-level designers or junior UX designers who maybe did a bootcamp, or you did a course, or you have maybe several months of experience, but you cannot find that entry-level job or that opportunity which basically would kickstart your career. The other day I got this message from one of my Instagram followers, and he has some advice on his portfolio, but in reality it wasn't portfolio what he needed to address, because what I asked him immediately was how much commercial experience do you have, because his portfolio was all conceptual cases. And so he replied that he had none. He just did bootcamp, he had some uni experience, but really no that end-to-end real-life junior UX or UX UI experience in a product design. And that's a key issue. And let me show you an example of that. And so I picked up a few job ads in UK for junior and entry-level designers. So for example, this is a junior designer which pays an entry-level salary, I guess, in London standards, and it immediately requires 1 year of commercial experience in UX, demonstrating an ability to clarify and communicate UX concepts. This is what you have. So if you don't have that, chances are they wouldn't consider you unless you have a lot of potential. If we look at the next one, for example, this is UX UI designer at the bigger salary range, and they're saying minimum 3 years of experience in transformational digital environment. Telco experience is a bonus but not essential, meaning even more specific. So maybe if you have 3 years of experience but you don't have a transformational digital environment case study, it would be really hard to get in, and meaning who has that always has the advantage, right? This is another one which is very wide range, meaning it's junior to maybe contributor level designer. You have 2 years of commercial experience. Junior product designer at the entry level salary range, 6 to 1 year commercial digital product designer experience. Yet another one, 2 years industry experience for junior service designer, which is, I guess, for service design because it's much more holistic, it's kind of understandable. And then for UX designer junior, 1 year experience, and it's all about commercial experience, by the way. Junior UX UI web designer, which is probably highly UI focused. It's minimum 1 year of experience working full-time in a digital design role. And if I go even more, for example, this is assistant UX designer role, entry-level UX designer role with a lot of different requirements to make that happen. And so this is the reality of the industry, and it almost doesn't matter where you go. It could be in India, it could be in Far East, it could be in Western world, in US and Silicon Valley, Central Europe, it doesn't really matter. Everywhere you're going to be required to demonstrate the commercial experience first and foremost. And so what I recommended the junior designer to do is think about it long term. Again, it's super important because UX is not something you graduate into. UX is not something you're just gonna do bootcamp and now you can call yourself UX designer and you can charge the top buck. No, that's why you have those standards and entry-level things, because UX is so complex and there's so many different skills involved in it that you need to learn, and you need to, almost quote unquote eat a lot of crap until you develop to be a good UX designer, and it end to end. It's not just UI design, it's user research, information architecture, and plethora of other skill sets which make you a UX designer. And that's going to take you months or years. That's really important. And so, what I recommended that UX designer is to consider this, but also, of course, you can apply for entry-level positions. You can still kind of slot in and use your conceptual cases as commercial experience, because not all hiring managers are going to be that scrupulous. But there are just a few of those options available. The graduate programs, let's say, or internships or apprenticeships, you could literally count on your hand globally how many positions are like that, across all the different firms. It's almost being lucky if you can get into those positions. And you're basically counting on having a firm which already has an established design capability, and which leads to the second option, which you can still do, is to use those conceptual cases and join a firm which doesn't have any design capability right now. There's way many more firms who would benefit from, let's say, digital design, UI design, web design, old school visual part of the UX. There is just way more challenges like that out there, because not everybody know the value UX can bring. Once you join that, you can then branch out and showcase what UX is about slowly, meaning you allow yourself to grow, but you also branch out and you grow the capability itself, and then you build that commercial experience, which is going to allow you to, let's say, find another job, or simply use that challenge to drive user centricity in that firm which didn't need UX designer, or they didn't think to do so. And so there's another option, but you need to find an environment which wouldn't be too choosy, basically. And of course, a third option is to continue freelance and continue to collect the commercial experience without being part of a team. So you could do, contracts, you could do freelances through a variety of sites, but again, those would be limited. And so if I'm a hiring manager and I'm looking for a UX designer who's focusing on user research and like a true UX, not just like a product or UI design, and you have on your resume that you freelanced for, several months or years, that to me doesn't really tell that you would be able to do it end-to-end properly within the organization or part of the organization. Of course, it depends if you're looking for a contract position, maybe you're looking for another freelance gig, and so those years would kind of blend and it wouldn't be as important. But if you would want to become part of the design in-house capability, the years would again come into play, and that freelance bit against, let's say, proper gig, which you were part of an organization and you kind of went end to end, it's not going to look as great, basically. And all in all, there's a lot of ways to do so, but again, it's going to take you time. This is something what junior designers tend to overlook because they don't think how much time does it really require. Most of the people who are in established design roles from like a midway to senior level, they spend half a decade, they spend a decade. In the leadership roles, you definitely need at least a decade of experience so you can actually do meaningful work and drive change and deliver enough value. And so to deliver that value, you definitely need the years. It's almost unavoidable. And in reality, and for the rest of designers, I would recommend to focus on a long term and also consider what you can do to capture that commercial experience before you need it. Meaning, if you're still studying, if you're still doing bootcamp, now is the time to get out there and make that happen. Freelance, get involved with the developers, try to do it end to end, document everything along the way, and try to get that commercial experience before you need it. That's a key component here.